Appreciate you stopping by this morning.
No, thanks for
How's it
having me.
going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Staying busy.
Good. Where are you at?
I'm in Boston, and then tomorrow I'm going down to New Jersey, and then the next week I'll be in Texas for a radio tour and a couple shows.
Nice, nice. Just happened to be stopping in Boston. My daughter lives there. She's in Waltham.
Oh, we just played there last Saturday.
Nice. What kind of venue was that?
Tempo, it's like a really nice restaurant, but they have another part in the back where it's a bar and it's a big space and it's a really nice stage and a really nice room. It's a good time.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
for those who don't know about you, what type of music do you play?
I play country music, and I would call it like heartland country music.
How does that go down in places like Boston? I mean, I'm sure it's very well appreciated, obviously.
Well, it's funny. People like country music all over, and there are, rural areas all over the country. So, I don't believe that country music belongs to the South. It just has been marketed that way. My dad from Oklahoma, he met my mom touring up in Massachusetts. Um, you know, because he came up here because there's a demand for it, a demand for country music. I mean, Kenny Chesney sells out stadiums up here. So does, I mean, a lot of other artists do. So the idea that Southern music belongs to the South is, it's just a marketing idea. Even, I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch Ken Burns' documentary on country music, but even the first country artists were, um, caricatures, hillbilly caricatures.
Yeah.
A lot of the songs were written by guys from New York City.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And one would never know that without, watching
No,
a doc like that. Yeah.
thank you, Ken Burns. Well, I mean, little things like the banjo, right? You think, I know, what was that Burt Reynolds movie, Deliverance? "Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun,"
Oh, yeah.
you think it's coming from the banjo is from Africa,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
So few know that.
I love the first episode. It was talking about the rub from different cultures, African Americans, and working class people, in a lot in mostly in the South. They're playing music together. That's where
Yeah.
country music came from. Anyway,
Fascinating. Yeah. It's
I'll
like,
keep
yeah.
going. I'll just
Yeah. It really is. Those really perceptions that are built over time. And
yeah,
yeah, it's easy to market, to label people and just, box them in the corner. And I'm sure any, A&R person will tell you it's like you got to easily label. So that's how you sell the records.
yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, it really is. So the latest is, very nice country tune, Hangover. Uh
Yes,
what are that
lovely.
single's origins there?
Well, I write with a few different people that I really enjoy writing with, and whenever I write with them, I always ask, what else do you have? Because I'm always looking for a good song. I'm an okay writer. I'm pretty proud of a lot of songs I've written, but I am not afraid to record other people's songs. And Hangover came from this guy Willie Morrison, who I've been writing with, and it didn't appeal to me right away because it was so, I don't know, the demo that I heard was very, I don't know, I don't know the adjective, but it didn't appeal to me. But my manager was like, well, listen to it again, because I've been listening to it and it's starting to really get in there. I'm like, okay. So I was like, oh yeah, all right, I could, duh, yeah, of course. But it's so Willie Morrison and a couple other gentlemen wrote that particular song, and we've been holding on to it for a while. I recorded it last May 2021, and we have a bunch of songs from that Nashville session with Bill McDermott, and there's some great songs in there. And Hangover is just a great fun party song.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
We all need that during something like the pandemic. It just has some really fun lyrics that really kind of stood out to me. We ain't stopping until the morning light.
Yeah.
Really, I just fun lyrics. It reminds me, who was really kind of tongue in cheek with was Toby Keith, and I love that song. Let's talk about me. It's just like that. That's like totally encapsulates the internet age.
For sure, and the fact that a lot of us were home, it's like, well, we can't go out to bars right now, so let's just stay home. That's what basically the song's about: staying home and drinking with the person that you care about or enjoy being around, and working on Hangover midweek. Midweek.
It's so true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really helps. It really does in this time. Hangover. So we can get that anywhere on any of the digital platforms.
Yeah, any of the digital platforms or my website, HoustonBernard.com, if you feel like downloading it and supporting a independent artist.
Yeah, and there's so many. That's why I like doing this podcast. There's so much talent out there, and especially during the pandemic when you couldn't perform, you couldn't get out there. It's really nice to have like this venue at least saying, "Hey, look what's here. This is something new. Don't keep listening to the legacy or the classic artists." There's just so much out there.
There's a lot of great stuff happening. More and more. I mean, it's a little more challenging for artists to try to make a living doing it, but it also pushes you to be a better version of yourself and try to improve. And then not to and competition is good in the sense that it helps you grow and be a better version of yourself. But it's also there's a lot of camaraderie. The more people that are doing it and they understand, and people are always reaching out to me and asking me, advice, other artists that are coming up. And, I just tell them, what I can tell them. And mainly it's like, well, do you have any advice for me? I'm like, well, do it because you love it, not because you're trying to get famous. Because that is just like, it's like winning the lottery twice. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to do, especially, the way the industry is built. It's
Yeah.
it's very difficult. There's very few people that make a good living playing original music.
Yeah, that it's really tough. I mean, it's easier to just simply do the covers. That's where you're making the bread and the butter there. But long term wise, you have to establish that identity, and
Yeah,
you're
your own
writing your
brand.
original material is that's the way to go.
Yeah, and luckily, I'm able to do you know, a lot of original music with my covers when I do like a full club night, the club nights, or even private parties. Sometimes people are like, "Well, play a few of your own songs. I like these songs." They check me out and they see some of my music. So, um, because I put that effort and that time and so many years into trying to improve my craft and what I'm doing, I'm able to do more originals with those nights that you're supposed to only be doing covers.
Yeah,
But
that's great.
festivals,
Yeah.
yeah, festival. I've been pretty lucky. I'm working hard too, but festivals and stuff like that, I do a lot of. It's like 90% originals because I'm. If you want to hear covers, that's not me. Just covers, But a club night, yeah, you got to keep people interested. Play what they know. I have a couple venues. Like when I do fly out dates, there's a couple venues out in California that are just like, okay, only two originals because that's not what we do here. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you're paying pretty good. It's not like it's not like, your low paying cheap club pay. So I'm like, well, if you're going to pay that kind of money, well then I'm going to cater my show to exactly what you're looking for, and then
Yeah.
I'll throw a couple originals. Here's my new single.
Yeah, if you need to go off to the restroom or whatever, you can do that. I'm gonna do this anyway. So, you might like it. You never know.
You might like, well, it's not just about the music. What I've been, I've worked really hard to try to sound good on stage, and it's more than that. They need more than that. The competition is too fierce. It's like, well, why am I going to book you? You're playing so many originals at this club, and you need more of a show. You need to engage people.
Yeah.
It's the interaction. So I've been really trying to work on, because I want to engage people, I want to talk to people, I want to communicate and entertain them. But I was watching a very short documentary on Bon Scott from AC/DC last night, and they were talking about how he spent 10 years getting better at interacting with the audience and connecting. And it wasn't until he got with those particular musicians that it really clicked, you know, and
Yeah,
that
that takes time. It really does. It's a lot of hard work.
you
And
saying the things to the audience too. Like, what are you going to say to connect with them? you don't want to say something offensive. You don't want to sound cheesy and ridiculous, which I've done many years of. Still do. But
I don't think a lot of people understand, the thought that goes behind even the between songs banter, even with the legacy artists. And you notice they always say pretty much the same thing from show to show.
that's right, because it works.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, sometimes you try to alter it a little bit, but I think the best thing to do is just try to be your most authentic self and as honest as you can. But I think a lot, like you said, a lot of people that have been doing it 20 plus years, they're saying the same stuff because they don't have to say anything different.
yeah,
You know, they're loved. They've already done the footwork. You
yeah.
know, they've already made their peak of their career. And they can ride that out for the rest of their life.
It's so true. And it just sounds so authentic every single time they do it. It's like, and they probably said the same things thousands of times before, but it's like it's amazing how they're able to make it sound fresh, like as if it's been never uttered before.
That is a testament to their ability as performers. I like how they go, Boston, it's my favorite city. Yeah, Milwaukee, it's my favorite city. New York, it's my favorite city. Like, I don't like. I'm a little cynical when I go to a show and they say
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'd rather they say something that's a little bit more true, like Boston. I love something about it. I love
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
clam chowder. I don't know, like.
Yeah. Just checked out the JFK library. Come on. It's like gonna go a little bit local here.
Exactly. Or when they wear the jerseys of a local, I'm like, oh man, you're pandering. You're
Yeah.
pandering. I take a little offense to that, unless it's really true. Like Kenny Chesney actually likes the Patriots, right? Like actually does. But he's not going to wear a Patriots jersey in Dallas. Don't pander to me. Just be honest with me.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. Just be your true, authentic self. So you have worked in different environments, so whether it's acoustic, full band, do you like that variety, or do you have a preference among all that?
Oh, I like the variety. I was just in Nashville and I played some acoustic writers rounds. I really enjoy that, being with other writers, especially, man, there's some really good writers that I was able to see. I'm like, wow, especially they're really young. Like a lot of them are like 18, 19, and they're doing their thing. I'm like, there's so much raw talent, and
Yeah.
it's so authentic. This young girl wrote about her father who was in the military for her whole life, and she wrote a song for him. And I'm like, ooh. I said, how did you get during the writers round? How did you get through that song singing to your dad? Because she's like, I didn't. I broke down. And I'm like, of course you did. Because how can you sing a song like that and be so honest? And it's people in the military. It's not just about the soldiers, and that's huge, but it's also about their
Mm.
families that support them through all that while they're away for so long. So that was really touching. But for me, performing, I mean, I love performing with a band because I get to do less music usually and more performing. And when it's
Yeah, yeah,
acoustic, I really have to make sure I'm really on it and sounding good and all that. It's a lot to be able to mix all those things, musicianship with performance, and like the communication between the band and all of that, and just trying to do good and not suck. It's hard.
big
I
goal. Yeah, it is. It
love it.
really is,
I
especially in
love
music. It
Yeah, I
really
love the
is tough.
challenge. I love the challenge of it.
So, touring, do you have a lot of stuff that you're like taking on the road with you? A lot of gear? Is that really tough going from venue to venue?
Regionally, because I'm mostly in the Northeast right now, and I'm heading out. I'm doing more in Texas. I'm really trying to break into the scene out in Texas. So it's more acoustic out there right now. But I'm charting. One of my songs is charting at 42 on the Texas Regional Country Charts, which is awesome. I get to go visit my dad in Oklahoma a little bit. But yeah, regionally, like this weekend, I'm taking my whole system out, and I'm sometimes I'll rent a van, big van, and take everybody in it, and we'll go. But this particular weekend, I'm doing a second gig that's acoustic at some private event. So we need to take multiple cars. We got 3 cars going. I'm covering gas for everybody, which is astronomical, as you know.
Crazy, especially in the Northeast. Gosh, they're up to $6 a gallon by now, I would think.
No, I think that's California's up to $6. I was just out there, or six something, 650, I think it was
Oh
like
my
one
gosh.
day. But no, it's I was just passing. It's like 450 right here.
Yeah, not too bad. We're not too far behind here. I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's around 410 a gallon. So
Oh,
yeah.
oh, I should drive down there, fill up my tank, and no, that's a terrible idea.
You
Typically,
can base yourself, out of the southeast here.
I can't wait to get back down to like North Carolina and Georgia. I haven't had many shows down there, so I'm hoping to do that.
Oh yeah, it goes over really well, and there's so many good venues. To give a little plug to the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau and all the other outlying cities around here. Yeah, this stuff does really, really well in this area.
We haven't found any venues that will that'll book me. You know, I'm at that level where it's like just above club level, but not theater level, or I'm not
Yeah.
filling rooms like that. But I'm still going at it. I got a lot of music I'm proud of. More, 4+ albums with a bunch of singles, and I've got a bunch of material ready to record. I've got a bunch of material ready to release. But I'm really focusing on Texas right now, and I just feel like it's a different place. It's a whole different place. And so far, they've been so accepting. I was doing a radio tour a couple weeks ago, going to all these little small towns, Comanche and Lampasas and
Cool.
Abilene, and I was going to the radio stations, and I was trying to get another gig. I only had like one acoustic gig, and I was trying to get another gig. And there was this band that was in Mason, Texas, cute little town, by the way, if you ever have a chance.
Huh.
And oh yeah, it's amazing little town. I love it. But the radio station's great. They support live and independent music, which is unheard of most around the country. It's like Texas still has that. Um, so nobody go to Texas that plays music because there's too many. No, I'm kidding. Um, but I met another band that I'm originally from Oklahoma. I was like, they were listening to the radio station as they were leaving. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a gig. If anybody has a gig. And so they invited me to play and open up for them acoustically. It was like an hour and change away, but I
Hmm.
drove out there down to Hunt, Texas, and opened up for them in the venue. It's called the Hunt Store. That's my first official country music show in Texas, and the vibe is a little different. I mean, yes, they love country music in the Northeast, but it's not the same
Yeah,
as
yeah.
it is in Texas. It's not the same as it is in Nashville or even California. It's a very different place, and they listen and they appreciative. But the band that invited me was actually from Oklahoma, so I was very excited to meet some people from my birth state that's playing music. I probably would have known them if I had grown up in Oklahoma more. So that was very exciting. And so yeah, I did the show, and actually I'm still in touch with those guys. I like their music too, and just they've been accepting. They've been doing it for at least 6 years in Texas, and they said you can make a living here playing shows just in Texas, and your music would fit really well. They call my music traditional. I'm like,
Huh.
traditional? It feels modern to me, but that's maybe because I'm old. I don't know. But no,
Yeah.
seriously, they call it like a 90s style, because consider it heartland music, and the modern music, country music that's coming out right now is very processed. It's very pop. Um, Not to say there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is that that's not really what I do. So my music goes over well so far there, and I think I'm going to keep pushing.
Seems
And
like a lot of that is coming out of Nashville these days. And it does sound very similar between the tons of
yeah,
artists over there.
it is what it is. It's like every generation needs to have a voice, and they have multiple artists. Because like my style of music, I feel sounds kind of like Luke Combs. It's just very rock, you know, very
Yeah.
honest. A lot of, but then you've got like Morgan Wallen, who's also very popular right now, and he's got a mix. It's a little closer to Florida Georgia line with some, he's mixing some hip hop in there and some, production, modern production tricks and polish, let's call it.
Yeah, it's trendy. It seems like it's pretty big at
Yeah,
the moment.
it's working for him. He's
Yeah.
huge, his biggest thing right now. So
Yeah,
good
you
for him.
really can't argue with that kind of success. It's
No, and you know, I feel like as long as you're being your authentic self and this is who you are and this is what you want, then who cares, you know, whether people like it or if it's polished or if it's overproduced, who cares? I
yeah,
I, I support any artist doing their thing because that's all I'm trying to do, my thing.
totally. And you started recording 2013, and so you have how many albums and just tons of EP singles and all this time you've been recording?
Yeah, so you know, I've recorded many other styles of music in different bands and different projects and different albums. But for country music, 2012, I think recorded, but released it 2013. That was like a kind of a classic style EP, and then did a full album in 2015, a little bit more modern, a little bit prog rock in there.
That's Knockin' Boots. Is that the
Rocket
release?
Boots is yeah, that's the longer album. That particular song has a bit of a prog rock feel, even though it's very blues based. You know, halftime, and it's not something you'd hear on the radio, but that song is people love that song. I'll probably do that song next time I go out to San Diego, which is a very the venue we play out there. They're very pop driven. As soon as the set's done, they go right into a dance club. Like so, they want the energy, 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 and Knockin' Boots kind of has that energy. If I'm going to play two original songs out there, that I think is going to be one of them. And then
Awesome.
after that was what did I name that? Lucky Man, obviously. Lucky Man as another EP. Very proud of that work. And then we got some label interest. I got some label interest, and I started listening to my manager more. You know, it's very difficult to do for someone with my personality, but when I'm in the studio, I trust my producer. I listen. When I have a manager or somebody that I can trust, um, and who support me all through the pandemic without getting paid,
Yeah.
um, then I know for sure that this is the right person for me. So I started listening to her. We got some label interests that said, "Well, we like him. We like his sound. Blah blah blah." But he doesn't sound very Nashville. So she introduced me to Bill McDermott in Nashville and said, "Well, let's record some stuff." So that's when I went down and recorded the first time. I think it was December 2019, right before COVID, and then I went again, you know, recently. And so I put some of those songs into I'm sorry, Freedom, which is kind of the fourth album EP. And then I just have singles, lots of singles, and I'm really happy working with Bill McDermott. You know, and the studio musicians are great. It's quick. Yeah, it's still true to the song. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Um, the quality is much higher. Even though I have a great band, it's a different thing, and it does sound Nashville, but it also sounds me. So I'm pretty proud of the stuff we're doing. I was just gathering a bunch of songs, trying to figure out what I'm going to record next, because I'll probably go back in December.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's great to have a great producer. It's somebody who could really understand, make you feel comfortable in that space, and then
Yeah,
have your backup, your studio people there. So yeah,
yeah.
that's a win-win formula.
Yeah, well, you know, it's great. The studio musicians, like, they played on so many albums that you've hits that you've known. Like Tim McGraw's keyboard player was in there. The drummer was the drummer for Alabama, who's touring with them. You know, people like, you know, top of their game musicians, and they're just when they're not touring, they're studio musicians,
Oh,
and they're
that's
great.
awesome.
And
That
they
really
nail
is. Yeah. Yeah. So you shared the bill with Luke Bryan and people like that. Sounds like you have a nice roster of people who you've shared the bill with.
Yeah, we've Luke Bryan and you know, Eric Church, people like that. We did a lot of side stage stuff for, but it's, you know, the same bill. And then we actually share the stage, literal stage, with like Old Dominion when they were coming up a couple times actually. 2015, Travis Tritt, Montgomery Gentry. You know, got to hang out with all of those hardworking, talented, successful musicians. And every now and then they would either just be nice to hang out with and, you know, catch the vibe, or they would give you advice. And Old Dominion, they gave us some advice. And actually, I just ran into when I was in Nashville a couple weeks ago playing Whiskey Jam. I
Yeah.
ran into the guitar player for Old Dominion. We were going to get coffee, and then, all the publishing. We were staying right in Music Row, and all the publishing. Everyone's kind of walking around and doing their business. And I was like, "Hey!"
Nice.
Of course, he didn't remember me, but it was nice to see him and congratulated him on his success. And he was really polite. And people like that really, when they're really successful and they're good to their fans, and you could tell they've got this star quality about them where not they can still make you feel like a human being, even though they've got a lot going on and they're really focused on their careers and stuff. They can still take the moment, the minute, and say, "Well, what are you guys doing here?"
Nice.
Like, you didn't have to say that. You know, really nice guy.
They're
Anyway,
keeping it real. That's great. That really is
you
to
got
have
to.
that. So out of your entire catalog, do you have a favorite? I mean, you consider songs your babies, and you have a favorite one, or it's just like, nah, I can't really go there and do that. I mean, I love them all just equally.
I don't love them all equally. I have some songs that I laugh at sometimes, and like, oh my god, I can't believe I wrote that. And then I have songs that are just like, okay, I can see why I wrote that. And then I have songs that are so true to my heart that, like my best song that I've ever written, and my most honest song I haven't released yet. It's called "In My Blood," and I've performed that many times, and it's recorded, but I'm not ready to release it yet. I think I'm just waiting to get to a certain level.
Hmm.
Hopefully, if I keep, where it's like I put that out and I go, oh, okay, now we get it. Because it's a very honest song. I have a song from my first album called "Happy," um, that is very simple and very honest, but I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what else? What else? I mean, "Knockin' Boots" is a fun song to perform. I like to I like to move on stage a little bit. Um, but the songs that I've been recording the past couple of years and working with, American Dream, Freedom, People We Are, those feel very true to my upbringing, and just trying to be a hardworking person doing the best you can. And I do believe in freedom. I support the Ukrainian people and that idea, and I support democracy for that matter. And democracy comes with a lot of checks and balances, and I think if people alienate themselves, I'm all left, I'm all right, and don't listen to each other,
Yeah.
that's how we dissolve as a country or as anything. You have to listen. We don't have to agree, but we have to listen. You got to stop arguing. It's such nonsense. It makes me nauseous. And be kind. That's what I believe in. And so a lot of the music that I've been writing and stuff is about treating people as humans, no matter the situation.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. Someone punches you in the face, you want to punch them back. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's not always the answer. Why,
Yeah.
why did they
Especially
punch me in the face? Because they misunderstood me. And that's what's happening when we don't listen to each other. Everybody's in their own echo chambers. Like, all my friends think this, all my friends think this. Well, won't we meet here in the middle and talk about it without
yeah.
yelling, without being an ass? Anyway,
So true. It's so true. It's gotten really bad the last couple of years too. It's just
for sure. I mean, it has to do
yeah.
with, in my opinion, it has to do with people that we look up to. Like, we have to, have good examples.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, that's the whole thing. But a lot of the music kind of resonates about being kind, and I think that has to do with the heartland music I grew up with, working hard, trying to do the right thing, taking care of your family, your friends, and just trying to bring some peace and positivity to the world. And that's really what I really love about the music that I'm putting out now.
Good. And speaking of your roots and everything like that, you grew up in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was
Is
born in
that yeah.
Oklahoma, and then my dad was a musician, a broke musician. So he had two kids, and he rejoined the army, and we ended up in Alaska. So I grew up there for a while. When my parents split up, my mom took us back to Massachusetts. So, and I didn't meet my dad again until I was about 19. I was in the army, and I went down to visit in Oklahoma. I was like, oh, this is a different thing. And the more I got to know about my father and his family, I was like, oh, that feels like me. That feels like who I am. And I'm a little bummed that I missed out on growing up with my father for a lot of the formative years.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
not having a father around
Mm.
is can really for any girl or boy or whatever. I always feel like you need both parents or some sort of support, and I didn't necessarily have all that support growing up. So I really dug in deep, especially the last few years, 10 years playing country music, and just try to figure out who my family is, which helps me find out who I am, and that has a lot to do with like the song "In My Blood" that I wrote, and figuring out what I believe in and why,
Mm.
and where these feelings and these traits came from. And my dad had 11 siblings in his family. They grew up on the farm in Oklahoma, and 100% self-sufficient for a long time. I was named after my uncle that passed on the farm when he was 2 years old.
Oh wow.
Houston Bernard. Yeah, a lot of people think it's a stage name. I get it
Yeah,
because it sounds like a stage name.
it does seem like that. Yeah, ready made.
Yeah, right. And then Houston is a name in our family. Houston Harrison, from 1910. He was actually in Oklahoma. He got shot by a police officer. They had a vendetta against each other or something. So that was my great grandfather. And so, and like my great great grandfather, George Bitter Creek Newcomb, he's a great, not a great, he was he was a gunfighter. He ran with the Dalton gang and the James gang and the Dueling gang, and he was part of the Wild Bunch. And
Yeah.
the Eagles did a whole album called Desperado, which was about the Wild Bunch. And track 10 is a song called Bitter Creek, which is
Yeah.
named
Yeah.
after the
Great
Eagles
album.
there.
Yeah. Oh, every Eagles.
Yeah,
God.
yeah, of course. But that's
Every note the Eagles did was perfect.
well, George Bitter Creek Newcomb is my great great grandfather, and that's
Wow.
they wrote that song about, which is pretty cool. I didn't find that out until a few years ago.
That's
This
awesome.
Canadian
But
country artist told me about it. And I was like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, I didn't know that that album was about, my family, or at least
Yeah.
a
How
group of.
crazy is that? And it's so universal. Like, God, you would think, this is the old wild, crazy West. So it was about a shootout in 1895, I believe. That's what Bitter Creek is all about. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, they shot him in his sleep. I mean, there's a bunch of different stories, but in the song I wrote, it's like I actually said they shot him in his sleep. They did. He was sleeping in the barn, and the brother of his girlfriend came out. And they were trying to collect. It was a $5,000 reward, which, as you can imagine, $5,000 back then is was a lot of money.
Insane amount, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Crazy,
mean,
crazy
they're breaking
risk.
the law. I can't condone all that, but it was over 100 years ago, so gotta give them.
Yeah, time heals a lot of those wounds.
I
It's,
don't
it
know
becomes
all the
legend.
details. I wasn't there. It's
It's
interesting.
so true. So your dad and uncle were into music and
Yeah.
they got a little bit of a history there.
Yeah, my Reba McEntire recorded one of my uncle's songs, Muddy Mississippi, on her 11th studio album, I believe it was. And my uncle was, my dad sings and stuff, but he was mainly the bass player and support for my uncle, who was, the A-type personality, was pushing everything, and they toured for many years. And even till my uncle's death back in 2003, he was still in music, and he was writing a movie actually about our great grandfather and writing a soundtrack to it and everything. But yeah, they backed up a lot of different acts. Tanya Tucker, they were one of her first backup
Yeah.
band. Um, Wanda Jackson, who was, what do they call her? She's the first lady of rockabilly,
Yeah.
something like
So you got
that.
some serious rockabilly influences there too.
Yeah, and I also grew up, like, my main influence musically was Elvis. So it was very rockabilly.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Um, and they toured with who else they toured with? Who was on the same label as Elvis? Um,
The tour of Sleepy LaBeef and
Sleepy
people
the
like
Beef.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. How
toured
cool
with
is
him as well.
that?
It was really cool. And I saw him when I was about 13 years old at there's a venue here that I wanted to play for many years. He's like, someday you'll be up here. And I was like, a few years ago that finally came true. I would actually be able to, and I performed on that stage 3 times now. Very excited about it.
Yeah, so the Rebel Brothers were pretty big back in the 70s. I'm sure
Yeah,
you
as
guys.
a touring act, yeah, and things were different. I'm not saying positive or negative, but they were different. Like the Rebel Brothers, like they're from the South. Even though my dad definitely leaned left, probably during that time. Um, things change as you get older too, but uh, the idea of a rebel or Southern, like it wasn't as as we've learned, there's a whole different view of it now. So they used to dress up in rebel uniforms or something, and I'm
Wow.
like, yeah, I'm like, all right, that wouldn't go over today, I don't think,
Not at
but
all.
not at all. No.
Totally wouldn't.
I mean,
Wow.
I think it's good to be, in my opinion, good to be conscious of how people are feeling, and be respectful of how people are feeling. But I think there's extremes in every direction that is not helpful. So I think
Yeah.
over wokeness,
Yeah.
over racist, or over
Oh my gosh, yeah.
it's like, let's meet somewhere a little closer. I'm a little over here. I'm not over here. I'm over here. So, and I feel like everybody's feelings and opinions are valid, but let's try to listen to each other, and maybe we'll find something out. Maybe we'll learn something new. And I think that's what was great during uh, the lockdown, especially, is where we didn't have much to do. And so a lot of us were searching and listening and getting perspective and just trying to figure out, that's why a lot of people have left jobs, right? During that time, because they're like, you know what? I've been working my butt off and I don't even enjoy this. What am I doing? Let me
Right.
rethink. Yeah, I have a second to breathe. Let me rethink. What do I want in my life? That's
Yeah.
what that's what happened to me too. I had taken over a 5-star spa, and because of COVID, I was like, you know what? I don't necessarily want to be working this hard, you
Yeah.
know, doing 80 hours a week worth of work. Uh, Let me get perspective. And I think by listening and looking inside and listening, listening and listening, people can find perspective, and maybe not be so angry about stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe
Hopefully,
find a little
fingers
bit more
crossed,
happiness.
it does get better. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to work it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by. And
Well, thanks for having me. I hope I didn't blabber on too much.
I love it. I love it. I love getting in the, and finding out how all the sausage is being made in these times. So that's great. I really, really appreciate it. And best wishes. And where can we find you online again?
HoustonBernard.com is the best spot. And I'm on all the socials.
Cool. Spotify, all that place, all your stuff
Oh yeah,
streaming over
streaming
there.
everywhere. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you and have a good day.
You too, Bob. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye bye.